Excessively bright light can harm the psyche just as much as noise. We tend to think of light as a sign of comfort and safety, but too much of it can lead to stress, anxiety, and even headaches. Overly lit offices or shopping centers can be just as draining as loud sounds. Scientists refer to this phenomenon as light pollution for the mind. Just as laundry can't dry in fog, the brain can't rest in a constant stream of bright light. Therefore, it's important to regulate lighting. Sometimes soft, dim light is more beneficial than glaring lamps that turn a room into a sterile laboratory. A story that sounds like a spy novel. Scientologists infiltrated U.S. government agencies. In the 1970s, followers of this religion conducted Operation Snow White. Their goal was to destroy documents that could harm the church. Scientologists secretly entered buildings, stole materials, and attempted to sabotage investigations. Ultimately, the FBI uncovered the conspiracy, making it one of the largest cases of illegal infiltration into government structures. For many, this event was shocking. A religious organization operated using intelligence agency tactics. It turns out that real life can sometimes be far more dramatic than fiction in movies. When a group of ferrets gathers, it's called a business. This is quite fitting. They are constantly bustling about, exploring everything around them, stealing shiny objects, and darting around as if discussing important deals. Imagine a small office where the employees wear fluffy tails instead of suits. They jump, play, and look so busy that you can't help but think, yes, they really are hard at work. This amusing name highlights the nature of these animals. Active, curious, and a bit chaotic. It's a business you could watch forever. The Nile is the longest river in the world, stretching about 6,650 kilometers. It flows through 11 countries in Africa and serves as a source of life for millions of people. The ancient Egyptians referred to the Nile as a gift from the gods, as the river's floods brought fertile soil and allowed crops to be grown in the desert land. Today, the Nile remains not only an important transportation artery, but also a symbol of history, culture, and the power of nature. It is remarkable that one river can connect so many peoples and eras, becoming a true thread of time that stretches across millennia. Pigs are much smarter than people tend to think. They can solve simple puzzles, deceive others for treats, and even recognize themselves in mirrors. In experiments, pigs completed tasks faster than dogs, and they easily learn tricks. Imagine a pig that not only knows where the tasty apple is, but also distracts its competitor to reach the food first. Scientists consider them to be among the most intelligent animals on the farm. It turns out that behind the image of a simple country dweller lies a true strategist and psychologist. Sharks have a secret that dentists can only dream of. Their teeth are coated with natural fluoride. Imagine a smile that never knows cavities. These predators replace their teeth hundreds of times throughout their lives, and each new one grows in perfectly healthy and strong. Sharks don't use toothbrushes or toothpaste, yet their jaws always look like a Hollywood star on the red carpet. That's why sharks can hunt for decades without worrying about pain or treatment. If humans had the same advantage, dentists could be turned into museums. This is where people worked when teeth still broke. There is a specific disorder called dyscalculia, a kind of dyslexia for numbers. People with this condition struggle even with the simplest tasks. They find it hard to understand which number is larger, 6 or 7, or to count change in a store. Their ability to perceive time, navigate calculations, and remember numbers is often affected. Approximately 7.5% of people worldwide live with this condition. For them, math is not just a difficult subject, but an almost incomprehensible language. Interestingly, a person may be talented in music or art, yet numbers will remain a mystery to them. Some crabs turn sea anemones into living weapons. Tiny crabs of the genus Labinia hold sea anemones in their claws and wave them around like living clubs. The anemones sting enemies with their venomous tentacles, protecting the crab, while receiving food and a chance to reproduce in return. If a crab loses its anemone, it can tear another one in half, and that one will regenerate into 2 new individuals. Nature's way of providing a backup plan. This is one of the most unusual examples of symbiosis. A small crab with living, weapon gloves that can fend off even larger foes. In the mountainous regions of India, people have found a way to collect water directly from the air. They stretch large nets that capture droplets of mist. The moisture drips into reservoirs, providing villages with a source of water even during dry spells. This simple yet ingenious solution saves thousands of lives. Imagine being able to catch a cloud in a net and turn it into drinking water. For the mountain dwellers, this is not a fantasy but a reality. This method demonstrates how ingenuity helps people survive in the toughest conditions. It sounds crazy, but the playwright Aeschylus was killed by a turtle. The great ancient Greek tragedian met his end in the most absurd way. An eagle dropped a turtle on his head, mistaking his boldness for a rock suitable for breaking the shell. This incident has gone down in history as one of the strangest examples of irony of fate. Aeschylus, who wrote about the greatness of the gods and the destinies of heroes, became a victim of absurd chance himself. One could say that life played a tragic comedy on him. And now his name is associated not only with great plays, but also with an extraordinary death. Some species of turtles can breathe through their cloaca. It sounds funny, but it's actually an important survival adaptation. During cold weather, they can be under ice, where there's almost no oxygen. That's when special cavities in the cloaca come into play, allowing them to absorb oxygen from the water. It's a sort of backup breathing. The turtle seems to say, well, if my nose and mouth aren't working, I have an alternative. This mechanism enables them to stay underwater for hours and even hibernate without coming up for air. Tokyo Tower is very similar to the Eiffel Tower, but it's painted in orange and white. The most interesting part is that it weighs almost half as much. This is due to the new generation steel used in its construction in the 1950s. The lightweight yet strong metal allowed for the creation of a massive structure without unnecessary heaviness. It turned out to be an acrobatic building, tall, stable, and yet slim. The tower became a symbol of Japan's recovery after the war, and its silhouette still adorns Tokyo. It serves as a reminder that technology can be both powerful and elegant. In ancient Rome, fashion could be both strange and bold. To achieve a rich, dark hair color, noble women used not dye, but leeches. They would take them, place them in a vessel, let them ferment, and then apply the resulting goo to their hair. It sounds horrifying, but at the time it was considered a true beauty secret. Imagine a modern salon. A client walks in and is offered leeches shampoo. We would run away in horror, but for the Romans, it was a normal grooming ritual. Interestingly, thousands of years later, we are still willing to undergo bizarre procedures for beauty, only now they smell a lot better. There's a myth that a duck's quack doesn't echo. In reality, that's not true. Physics works the same for all sounds. It's just that a duck's quack has a frequency and duration that make the echo seem quiet and unnoticeable. In a quiet place, you can catch it, but under normal conditions, it fades away. So the myth arises from the peculiarities of our hearing, not from nature itself. It's amusing how often we create legends to explain ordinary things. A duck quacks with an echo. It's just hard to hear. So next time by the pond, try to listen closely. You might catch that hidden stereo. Have you ever wondered what dinosaurs actually sounded like? In the famous Jurassic Park, the monsters sound so terrifying that it sends chills down your spine. But the sound designers didn't find recordings of prehistoric reptiles. No one has ever heard them. Instead, they combined the most unexpected sounds, like the moans of mating turtles. These became the foundation for the fearsome roars on screen. It's amusing to imagine viewers holding their breath, believing in the terrifying roar of the T-Rex, while in the studio, sound engineers are stifling laughter, knowing that the king of the lizards sounds suspiciously romantic. Even wild wolves know how to wag their tails, and they do it with a specific meaning. We are used to dogs expressing joy and friendliness this way, but their wild ancestors, the wolves, do the same thing, albeit with a different significance. Young wolves wag their tails in front of older ones, showing respect and submission. Sometimes the tail helps to ease a tense situation. It's a way of saying, I'm not a threat. I acknowledge your authority. Thus, this gesture in dogs is not a coincidence, but an ancient legacy. It's amusing to think that when you play with your dog's tail, you are witnessing an echo of the behavior of its distant ancestors who lived in forests and packs. The carnivorous plant Venus flytrap can literally count. When an insect touches its sensitive hairs, the trap doesn't close immediately. The plant waits for a second touch to ensure it's not just a random raindrop or a speck of dust. If the touch is repeated, the lobes snap shut. Scientists have found that the flytrap keeps an internal count, and a specific number of stimuli is also needed for digestion. This means the plant has a primitive memory and a decision-making system. This makes it resemble a creature with a brain, even though it doesn't have one. Leonardo da Vinci observed a mathematical law in the most ordinary trees. In his notes, he remarked that if you sum the thickness of all the branches of a tree at a certain height, it equals the thickness of the trunk. This remarkable observation has been confirmed by modern research. Trees that follow this rule withstand strong winds and storms better. Leonardo made a discovery that ecologists and biologists still use today. It turns out that the artist and inventor recognized patterns in nature that science was only able to prove centuries later. A true example of how a genius was ahead of his time. Off the coast of Mauritius, there is a breathtaking sight. It looks as if a giant waterfall is crashing into the ocean right by the shore. In reality, this is an optical illusion. Ocean currents carry sand and sediment in such a way that it creates the impression of a swift flow downward into the abyss. From above, the view is fantastic. The water seems to plunge through the edge of the ocean. Tourists specifically fly here to witness this natural wonder with their own eyes. In reality, there is no chasm, but the beauty of the illusion is so striking that it is considered one of the most mesmerizing landscapes on the planet. When we see an iceberg, it appears to be a massive chunk of ice proudly floating in the ocean. But the most treacherous part is that 90% of its mass is hidden beneath the surface. This means we only see a small tip, while the bulk remains concealed in the depths. This is why icebergs are so dangerous for ships. The underwater portion can be many times larger than what is visible. It's no wonder the Titanic collided with such a massive block, completely unaware of its scale. An iceberg is like an iceberg of problems. What's on the surface is just a small part. The water keeps its secrets deep, and they can be fatal for those who underestimate the danger. Even carousels in different countries spin in different directions. In the UK, carousels traditionally rotate clockwise, while in the US and continental Europe, they turn counterclockwise. This difference stems from the fact that in the past, carousel figures were designed for easier mounting from the left side. The British deemed one direction correct, while those across the ocean chose another. The result is a curious phenomenon. The same amusement moves in opposite directions in different parts of the world. It may seem like a minor detail, but it highlights how culture influences even entertainment. The elephant's trunk is a true marvel of nature. Imagine an organ with around 40,000 muscles, more than the entire human body. Because of this, an elephant can tear off heavy branches, gently pick up a small berry, and even embrace its young. They use their trunks to drink water, make sounds, and play, almost like hands. Baby elephants sometimes even suck on their trunks, like children do with their thumbs to soothe themselves. It's hard to believe that one tube can perform so many tasks, from brute strength to gentle gestures. That's why the elephant's trunk is one of the most unique and multifunctional tools created by nature. The International Space Station is not just a laboratory in orbit. It is the most expensive man-made object ever created. Its construction and operation have cost around $150 billion. For comparison, that's nearly 50 times the cost of the Eiffel Tower. The station has become a symbol of cooperation among different countries, with Americans, Russians, Japanese, and Europeans working together on board. Experiments are conducted there that cannot be performed on Earth. And while the amount may seem astronomical, the results are worth it. The ISS has opened the doors to life beyond our planet and represents a step toward future flights to other worlds. The chicken is a bird, but there's nothing eagle-like about its flight. The longest flight ever recorded lasted just 13 seconds. For comparison, that's less time than it takes to count to 15. The reason is simple. A chicken's body is heavy, and its wing muscles are not developed enough for long flights. However, these short bursts allow chickens to jump over fences or fly up into trees to escape danger. So a chicken flies just enough to survive. And while its flights may not be impressive, it remains a unique bird in its own right, an ancestor of dinosaurs and a staple of the farmyard. Sometimes a word that sounds like a joke hides a very real pain in the muscles. Caripatura is a term sometimes used to refer to muscle soreness, that familiar feeling when your muscles start to ache after a workout. Scientifically, it's called delayed onset muscle soreness and occurs due to micro tears in the fibers. The body responds to the strain with inflammation to repair the tissues, which is why the muscles hurt more the next day. In everyday life, this is perceived as a punishment for exercising, but in reality, it's a sign that the body is adapting and becoming stronger. One could say that caripatura is a receipt that the body gives you for the work done. The oldest university in the world was established in the 9th century in Morocco. It was founded by a woman, Fatima al-Fihri. She invested her inheritance in the construction of a mosque and an educational center, which became a place of knowledge for thousands of students. It's remarkable that at a time when women had very few rights, one of them created an institution that has survived for centuries. Today, Al-Qarawiyyin University is still operational and is considered the oldest in the world. Fatima's story reminds us that great changes often come from those we least expect. Today, over 1,300,000,000 people know and use English. It is not only an official language in dozens of countries, but also the language of the internet, science, and business. This means that even if you find yourself in an unfamiliar corner of the world, the chances of being able to communicate in English are still high. It has become something like a universal translator between nations. Of course, every language has its own beauty, but English has become the bridge that connects millions of different cultures. One could say it is a true key to the global world. In Egypt, there is a funny yet important rule: no kissing camels. Tourists often want to take close-up photos with these animals, but it's not safe. First, camels can be unpredictable and may easily show aggression. Second, they carry infections that can be transmitted to humans. That's why the authorities decided to officially warn: no romance with camels. It's amusing that such a sign seems almost like a joke, but in reality, it protects the health of both people and the animals themselves. Sometimes rules sound silly, but they carry a simple truth: respect nature and don't intrude where you don't belong. In Patagonia, there is a hill that produces melodic sounds when the wind blows over it. Locals call it the Singing Hill and consider it a natural wonder. Imagine climbing to the top and hearing the shimmering tones as if a giant flute is playing. Scientists explain this phenomenon by the unique structure of the stones and the cavities through which the air flows. But for tourists, it feels more like a concert put on by the earth itself. They even organize tours where people simply sit and listen to the hill play. It turns out that nature has its own musical instrument, and it sounds better than any speaker. In the town of Coober Pedy in southern Australia, people hide from the heat underground. There, they have not only homes, shops, and churches, but even a post office. Imagine walking into a rock and finding a regular post office inside, complete with a window, stamps, and mailboxes. Everything operates just like on the surface, except the walls are made of sandstone, and the temperature is pleasantly cool year-round. Tourists are thrilled. It's rare to send a postcard from an actual underground office. For the locals, however, it's just a part of life, a way to survive in a climate where the ground literally melts from the heat in summer. Camels are the champions of the desert. They can drink up to 130 liters of water in just 13 minutes. It's like a person draining an entire bathtub in one go. Their bodies are designed to retain moisture, their blood and tissues are adapted to withstand dehydration, and they hardly sweat at all. Because of this, camels survive where other animals wouldn't last a day. It's no wonder they are called ships of the desert. They carry loads and people across the scorching sands like enormous living water tanks. Interestingly, even the mightiest trees have a limit to their growth. It turns out that no tree on the planet can exceed a height of about 130 meters. The reason lies in physics. Water cannot rise up the trunk beyond a certain level. It's like trying to drink through a straw the length of a skyscraper. At some point, the liquid simply stops. This is why even the majestic sequoias, the tallest trees in the world, reach this invisible threshold. We look up at them in awe of their grandeur, but they too are subject to the strict laws of nature that impose a limit where it seems there could be infinity. Digital clocks are much more accurate than mechanical ones. Electronic devices use the vibrations of a quartz crystal, which functions almost like a perfectly precise metronome. Mechanical clocks, on the other hand, rely on springs and gears, making them more prone to wear and inaccuracies. The difference can be minutes over a month, while digital clocks may only lose a few seconds. Imagine a race. One runner stays perfectly on track, while the other constantly veers off slightly. That's how it is with clocks. Yet the irony is that mechanical watches often become symbols of luxury and style. In Japan, there are unusual hotels where guests are greeted not by people, but by robots. Imagine being welcomed by an android at the reception, while a mechanical porter delivers your luggage to your room. Even cleaning and service are partially handled by machines. This network is called Henna Hotel, and it has become a true attraction. For tourists, it's an opportunity to glimpse the future, where technology and service merge into one. Of course, sometimes robots make mistakes, and humans have to step in, but the experiences are unforgettable. The Japanese have once again proven that if you're looking for futuristic ideas in everyday life, you should look to them. A hotel with robots is a reality where you can spend the night today. If you take a close look at Leonardo da Vinci's most famous painting, you'll notice something strange. The Mona Lisa has no eyebrows. Scholars debate whether the artist intended it that way or if the eyebrows have faded over time. But this small detail makes her smile even more enigmatic. We are used to reading emotions through facial expressions, and the absence of familiar features is disorienting. It's like having a conversation with someone, but part of their words suddenly disappears. Each viewer fills in the gaps in their own way. Perhaps that's why the smile of the Gioconda is so captivating. It communicates with us through the silence of missing details. What a surprise! It turns out that intelligent people are the ones who remember their dreams most often. Researchers have noticed a pattern. Individuals with high intelligence and rich imagination tend to recall their dreams and can recount them in detail. This is linked to brain activity during the rapid eye movement, REM phase of sleep. Of course, this doesn't mean that someone who forgets their dreams is unintelligent, but the connection is intriguing. Perhaps a developed imagination helps retain nighttime images. It seems that dreams serve as a kind of workout for the brain, and those inclined toward creativity receive a bonus in the form of vivid memories. Imagine that life on Earth could hit a reset button. There's a chilling hypothesis called Medea. It suggests that microbes can trigger mass extinction events. The idea is that microorganisms, which have dominated the planet for billions of years, can alter the environment so drastically that complex life simply ceases to exist. It's as if Earth returns to a primordial state. This concept is controversial yet eerie. Nature sometimes seems to reset its experiments, as if pressing a restart button. We tend to view life as invincible, but this theory reminds us that its greatest enemy might be itself. The oldest joke was found on a clay tablet in Mesopotamia and dates back to around 1900 BC. And funny enough, it's a joke about gas. It says, "Never has it happened that a woman did not fart in front of her husband." Humor, it turns out, is timeless. 4,000 years have passed, and the themes haven't changed. It's amusing that scholars, while deciphering the ancient text, discovered not only laws and myths, but also this little everyday joke. It seems people have always enjoyed joking about the simple and relatable. Even serious scientific satellites can have cartoon nicknames. In 2002, the GRACE mission was launched. 2 satellites that flew one behind the other in the same orbit. Their task was to measure gravitational changes on Earth. One satellite would speed up as it passed over mountain ranges, drifting away from the other, and then they would come back together. Scientists joked that they were playing tag and nicknamed them Tom and Jerry. It's amusing that a serious scientific project of global significance ended up with a name from a children's cartoon, so much so that it became the mission's official informal name. In a laboratory in Minnesota, there is a special room where the noise level is just 9 decibels. That's quieter than a whisper, quieter than the rustling of leaves. People who enter begin to hear their own heartbeat and even the movement of blood in their veins. Many can't last more than a few minutes. The silence feels deafening. Scientists use this room for testing equipment and hearing. But for the average person, it's more of an extreme challenge. It creates a paradox. The quieter the surroundings, the louder you sound to yourself. Do you remember those annoying pop-up windows on the internet? The ones that took up half the screen and drove you crazy? It turns out their inventor publicly apologized for them later. In the 1990s, programmer Ethan Zuckerman came up with this method to separate ads from main content. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, but soon ads flooded the web, turning surfing into a nightmare. Years later, Zuckerman admitted that his invention caused more harm than good. This is a great example of how even good intentions can lead to unpleasant outcomes. And now when we close yet another pop-up window, we can remember that its creator regrets it. We tend to think of the skin as just a shell that protects the body, but in reality, it resembles a vast city inhabited by billions of tiny neighbors, bacteria, fungi, and other microbes. Their numbers exceed those of all the people on Earth. Sounds alarming? Actually, it's a good thing. These invisible residents help keep the skin healthy, fight infections, and maintain balance. You could say that everyone has a personal army of bodyguards that we don't even notice. They live with us constantly, day and night, maintaining order on the skin's surface. So the next time you think about cleanliness, remember, your skin is a whole kingdom of invisible allies. Octopuses are true inventors of the underwater world. Scientists have observed that they can use coconut shells as shelters. They pick up suitable halves, drag them along the ocean floor, and then assemble them like a shield when they need to hide. It looks as if the octopus has its own backpack or portable tent. For an animal without bones or a shell, this is a brilliant solution. It creates its own armor. Octopuses are already known for their high intelligence, but using objects is a level of ingenuity akin to humans. So it turns out that a little MacGyver with 8 arms lives on the ocean floor. The cougar is a cat that seems to have checked off almost every location on the map. You can find it in the mountains of Canada, the deserts of Chile, the forests of the United States, and even on the outskirts of cities. It adapts to any conditions, from snow to heat. No wonder it's called the cat with 1,000 addresses. Unlike many large predators, the cougar is not afraid of human proximity and sometimes appears near settlements, yet it remains elusive and cautious. It's an incredible example of survival. Where tigers and lions are confined to specific territories, the cougar roams freely across an entire continent. It turns out that the rubber snake is not just a toy, but a real animal. In Canada, there is a harmless snake with the surprising name of rubber snake. It is completely safe for humans and is even used in therapy for people with phobias. Due to its calm demeanor and soft body, it is used for gradual acclimatization to snakes. There have been no recorded cases of attacks on humans. Interestingly, the rubber snake that we usually think of as a prank toy actually exists in nature and helps people overcome their fears. Sometimes even the names of animals sound like a joke from nature. The space menu has long resembled a home-cooked one, featuring borscht and cutlets instead of just tubes. Today, meals in orbit are not much different from those on Earth. Astronauts eat borscht, cutlets, and porridge, all in special packaging. Soups are heated and consumed through a straw, while solid dishes are eaten with a spoon. The main difference is that food can float away, so everything is secured with Velcro and served carefully. Many are surprised to find that lunch in space is not a futuristic powder, but rather a familiar home menu. This way, an astronaut can feel almost at home during their meal. You won't believe it, but Isaac Newton was a secret agent. At the end of the 17th century, he was appointed as the Master of the Royal Mint in England. At that time, the country was suffering from an influx of counterfeiters. Newton didn't limit himself to office work. He disguised himself, visited taverns, gathered evidence, and brought criminals to justice. His efforts led to dozens of arrests. So the author of the Laws of Mechanics was simultaneously waging a real battle against the underground. History remembers him as a great scientist, but few know that part of his life resembled a spy novel. What's truly surprising is that the zipper was long considered a failed idea. Today, no jacket, bag, or backpack is complete without a zipper. But in the early 20th century, it didn't catch on at all. The first models seemed inconvenient and unreliable. Fashion was slow to embrace the innovation, preferring traditional buttons. It took 20 years for the zipper to gain popularity, first among the military and then in everyday clothing. Now it's hard to imagine a world without this invention, but at one time, the zipper was seen as almost a toy that would never take off. History once again shows that brilliant ideas often take time to be recognized. The largest spider on the planet is the Goliath bird eater. Its leg span can reach 30 centimeters, and it weighs over 170 grams. This hairy giant can hunt not only insects, but also small rodents, lizards, and even chicks. When encountered, it can produce a frightening hissing sound by rubbing its legs together. Despite its fearsome appearance, its bite is not deadly to humans. It's similar to a wasp sting. However, the impression of an encounter is strong. It's like a small dog in the world of spiders. Scientists call it the king of spiders, and it's hard to argue with that. In 2001, the residents of the Indian state of Kerala were stunned. Red rain was falling from the sky. The droplets left crimson puddles, as if after a mystical sign. People thought of the apocalypse or the blood of gods. Scientists, however, discovered that particles of sand and spores from microscopic algae had entered the atmosphere, coloring the rain. This phenomenon lasted for several weeks, and each day felt like a scene from a science fiction movie. For the locals, this event remains one of the most mysterious memories, told to children as a miracle that happened in their land. It sounds incredible, but one mistake on the stock exchange cost $100 million. In Japan, a trader accidentally entered the wrong number. Instead of selling 6 shares at 610,000 yen, he sold 610,000 shares at 6 yen. The computer system did not allow the transaction to be canceled, and the company lost a colossal amount. This incident has been dubbed the fat finger error, when a single clumsy keystroke leads to catastrophic consequences. Imagine, a simple typo, which we often attribute to inattention, turned into a sum equivalent to the budget of an entire city in the financial world. The story of the fire hydrant began with irony. Its first patent was burned. The tale is ironic. An invention created to fight fire itself vanished in flames. The exact design of the first hydrant remains unknown because the documents were destroyed in the fire. Scholars and historians can only speculate about who might have been the inventor. The hydrants we are familiar with on the streets only began to appear in large numbers years later. It creates a true paradox. We use this invention every day, yet the name of the first person who devised this way to save lives is forever lost to the fire. On the southern coast of Iceland, there is a black beach that is never the same. Every year, its contours change. New dunes rise in some areas, while in others, the sand completely disappears. This is all due to winds and powerful underwater currents that move the sand along the shore. Locals and tourists note that today the beach looks one way, but a year later it's different, as if someone has rearranged its parts. It feels like nature itself is painting new scenes right on the shore. This place has become a true mystery for scientists and attracts travelers, as here one can literally witness the changing land and feel the breath of the ocean, capable of reshaping entire landscapes. In Rome, a pizza over 40 meters in diameter was once baked. It was named Ottavia in honor of the Roman emperor. The weight of this culinary monster exceeded 23 tons. Special ovens and a team of pizzaiolos worked for several days to prepare it. Imagine a square where instead of asphalt, there's a giant crust topped with tomato sauce and cheese. This pizza could feed an entire city. Interestingly, it was completely gluten-free, ensuring that the record not only amazed but also catered to those with dietary restrictions. A true gastronomic spectacle for all of Italy. Did you know that the Amish fundamentally do not wear mustaches? This religious group is known for its conservative lifestyle. No electricity, no cars, and traditional clothing. Amish men grow beards but never leave mustaches. The reason is that in the 19th century, mustaches were associated with the military, and the Amish have always been committed pacifists. For them, mustaches symbolize war and violence, which is why they reject them. It turns out that even a small detail of appearance can become a powerful symbol of beliefs and a reflection of one's worldview. In the dense jungles of Honduras, archaeologists used lasers to discover a lost ancient city that had been hidden by nature for centuries. Laser scanning allowed them to see through the tree canopies and uncover the ruins of buildings, plazas, and pyramids. Local legends referred to this place as the White City or the City of the Gods, attributing mystical powers to it. Researchers found numerous artifacts that confirmed the existence of a rich culture in the area. It turned out that deep within the forest lay an entire civilization forgotten by humanity. This discovery revealed that the jungles could be not just a home for wildlife, but also a vast repository of human history. The word robot first appeared in a play by Czech writer Karel Čapek in 1920. In his play, RUR, robots were artificial workers created for hard labor. Interestingly, the author derived the word from the Czech robota, meaning forced labor. Ironically, 100 years later, this word has become a symbol of future technologies. Today, robots clean homes, assemble cars, and even compose music. It turns out that it all started with the imagination of a writer who coined a word that changed the world. The Sahara is not just a sea of sand, but also a place where it can sing. Some dunes emit a low hum or even melodic sounds when the sand slips down their slopes. It's like an organ built right into the desert. The reason lies in the unique shape and size of the grains. They rub against each other and create vibrations. Imagine walking on a dune, and suddenly the entire mound starts to resonate, as if alive. Travelers describe this sound as enchanting and mystical. It's no wonder that local tribes have legends about spirits singing in the sands. It may seem that sports should unite people, but one day a football field became the spark for war. It sounds absurd, but in 1969, football matches were the last straw in the conflict between Honduras and El Salvador. The teams faced off on the field, but underlying their game were much sharper issues: overpopulation, land disputes, and social tension. The matches added fuel to the fire, leading to a war that would later be called the Football War. It lasted only a few days, but claimed thousands of lives. The irony is that a sport meant for unity and joy unexpectedly became the trigger for a real tragedy. We often perceive the nose as just an ordinary organ of smell, but in reality, it is incredibly complex. It was once believed that humans could distinguish around 10,000 scents. Today, we know that our nose can detect up to 1 trillion different aromas. It's a whole universe of sensations, from the smell of fresh bread to the subtle notes of smoke or gas that can warn us of danger. Think about it. The nose helps you recall childhood memories through the aroma of grandma's pies or feel the excitement of spring through the scent of damp earth. We tend to consider sight as the primary sense, but the nose is a true superhero, working quietly and unnoticed, saving us from mistakes every day and filling our lives with memories. Today, okay is heard everywhere, from chats to serious negotiations. But few know that this word originated from a joke in a Boston newspaper in 1839. In an article, they intentionally wrote "all correct" incorrectly, resulting in "all correct." People liked the abbreviation, and soon okay became widely used, first in America, then around the world. Now it's a universal sign of agreement, understood in almost every country. It's amusing that a newspaper pun turned into the most recognizable word on the planet. The next time you write okay to a friend, remember, it's not just a response, but a little historical joke. If Saturn surprises with diamond rain, then the phenomenon on Neptune is even more impressive. Under pressure and at immense temperatures, methane in the planet's atmosphere turns into diamond crystals that fall like raindrops. Imagine precious stones gathering in the sky instead of clouds. Of course, at depth, they break down into other forms of carbon, but the process itself is astonishing. A world where diamonds rain from the sky seems like a fairy tale, yet it truly exists. However, it's unlikely that humans will ever reach it. Conditions are just too extreme. But the thought of such natural luxury is captivating. Today, the computer mouse is a familiar accessory, lightweight and made of plastic. However, the first mouse, created in 1964 by engineer Douglas Engelbart, was made of wood. Inside, there were metal wheels that tracked movement across the table. The device looked strange and bulky, but it marked the beginning of a new era. It's hard to believe that from such a simple wooden box, modern touchpads and wireless gadgets emerged. This story serves as a reminder. Great technologies often arise from very humble beginnings, and sometimes all it takes is one wooden experiment to change the world. Strangely enough, little Albania has turned into a country of bunkers. In the mid-20th century, dictator Enver Hoxha ordered the construction of defensive structures in case of war. The result was around 700,000 concrete bunkers scattered across the country. They were placed on the shores, in the mountains, in backyards, and even near schools. The country resembled a stone anthill. Today, many bunkers are abandoned. Some have been transformed into cafes, museums, and even housing. For tourists, they are a curiosity, while for Albanians, they serve as a reminder of a time when the fear of war was literally embedded in the landscape. Once, oranges were not orange at all. Their ancestors, grown in Southeast Asia, had green skin. Even today in tropical regions, oranges often remain green, although inside they are fully ripe and sweet. Only in cooler countries does the skin lose chlorophyll and turn the familiar orange color. So, orange is more of a climatic coincidence. Imagine a supermarket where all the oranges are green. People would think they are unripe. In reality, that's how they looked in their true historical form. In English, there is a word, strengths, and it is special. It is the longest word with just one vowel. Despite its simplicity, it symbolizes strength, resilience, and endurance. It's amusing that such a word is unique in its structure. It contains 8 consonants in a row, yet it sounds easy and familiar. This little linguistic record shows that even in words, we can find our own championships. Language, like nature, holds its secrets and wonders, and sometimes they are hidden in the most ordinary things, in a word we use almost every day. You won't believe it, but the sugar industry has been hiding the truth for decades. In the mid-20th century, sugar producers funded research that shifted the blame for heart disease onto fats and cholesterol. Scientists published articles that downplayed the dangers of sugar, redirecting attention to dangerous fats. As a result, entire generations believed that sweets were relatively safe, while the real threat was butter and meat. It was only later revealed that excess sugar is directly linked to obesity and diseases. This is one example of how business can rewrite science for its own benefit. Beneath the ice of Antarctica lie entire mountain ranges comparable to the Alps. The Gamburtsev Mountains represent a true hidden world. Their size rivals that of the Alps, but they remain unseen, covered by a layer of ice more than 3 kilometers thick. These mountains formed around 100 million years ago, yet thanks to their icy armor, they have remained almost in their pristine state. There may be valleys, rivers, and even subglacial lakes, as if frozen in time. Scientists study them only through radar and satellites. Thus, right beneath the feet of the polar explorers lies a vast world about which we know almost nothing. In the town of Talkeetna, Alaska, they've come up with a tourist attraction. A trained bear delivers the mail. Of course, he doesn't go door to door, but participates in a show, carrying baskets filled with letters inside the post office. Tourists love the idea of sending a postcard with a bear stamp. It's a unique keepsake. The locals have turned this into an attraction, and now the bear postman has become a true symbol of the town. It sounds almost like a fairy tale, but it's actually a real way to attract visitors and make ordinary mail a local landmark. Japan's national anthem is the shortest in the world. In its original form, it consists of just 32 characters and lasts less than a minute. Yet within these concise lines lies a profound meaning, a wish for the country's prosperity and longevity. In contrast to other anthems that feature lengthy tales of heroism and history, Japan's anthem sounds like a poetic whisper. It's akin to a haiku among anthems. Minimal words, maximum emotion. This succinctness is what makes it unique. Sometimes it's truly better to say little but with impact. A story that sounds like a paradox. A fashion brand burns its own bags. Louis Vuitton and other luxury brands destroy unsold goods. They do this to prevent items from going on sale and devaluing the brand. Bags, clothing, and accessories worth millions of dollars are burned or disposed of each year. It turns out that to maintain the company's image, they are willing to destroy what for many people symbolizes wealth. This is shocking, but in the fashion world, the logic is different. It's better to burn thousands of bags than to let them sell for less. Did you know that linear perspective in painting is a little trick of the eye? Renaissance artists began using a special technique to create space, making their paintings appear three-dimensional. The secret lies in how lines and shadows create the illusion of depth, even though the canvas remains flat. Sometimes it seems as if the gaze of a character in the painting literally follows you wherever you go. It's a play of light, shadow, and perspective. For the modern eye, this is familiar, but in the 14th century, such works looked like true magic, as if the artist had managed to turn a piece of fabric into a window to another world. Penguins are masters of swimming and diving, but they have another trick up their sleeves. They intentionally swallow small stones. Why? First, these pebbles help grind food in their stomachs, acting like a kind of grinding system. Second, the extra weight helps the birds dive deeper and stay underwater longer. This way, penguins become true underwater hunters. Imagine, what seems like a silly act, grabbing a stone and swallowing it, turns out to be a clever adaptation for survival. It's another example of how nature equips animals with unexpected tools that help them excel in their environment. Today, it's hard to imagine a computer without microchips, but there was a time when memory was made quite differently. In the mid-20th century, data was stored in tiny magnetic rings. Each ring could remember a bit of information, while wires threaded through them managed the writing and reading processes. This was known as ferrite memory. It looked quite simple, like beads strung on a wire. Yet this technology was a breakthrough that allowed the first computers to operate faster and more reliably. Such memory was literally worth its weight in gold, and every cell counted. Today, it's difficult for us to believe that programs ran on rings, but that's how the era of the digital world began. It turns out that we perceive smells not only with our noses. Our skin has receptors that respond to aromatic substances. Scientists conducted experiments by applying certain scents to the skin and observed that the cells reacted. Moreover, some aromas accelerated wound healing. It seems that our skin acts like an additional sense organ that quietly works in the background. Imagine if we could smell the aroma of coffee not just with our noses, but also with our palms. While this sounds fantastic, research shows that the skin does indeed pick up chemical signals. Today, we send each other emojis, hearts, and pizza in chats as if they've always existed. But the first emojis appeared in Japan in the late 90s. There were only 176 of them, and they looked very simple. A sun, a phone, a smiling face. Back then, it seemed trivial, but now emojis have turned into a real language understood all over the world. It's amusing that the idea came from a Japanese mobile company. They just wanted to make communication easier for their users. Now the entire world expresses emotions through these tiny images. You could say that without these little symbols, texting would be dull, like tea without sugar. A sunset on Mars is a true wonder. Unlike Earth, where the sky is painted in shades of red and orange, on Mars the sun sets in a blue glow. This is due to the planet's thin atmosphere, which scatters light differently than ours. As a result, the daytime sky appears pale yellow, and at sunset the horizon ignites with a stunning blue light. Astronauts who find themselves there will witness a truly alien landscape. Imagine standing on the cold Martian plains, gazing up at a foreign yet mesmerizing sky. It's like a painting by an artist who decided to swap the usual colors. In Madagascar, baobabs grow, captivating not only with their appearance but also with their remarkable ability. Their roots can move in search of moisture. Of course, the tree itself doesn't walk, but its root system gradually extends in the necessary direction, creating the illusion that the baobab is shifting across the ground. This adaptation helps it survive in drought conditions. For the locals, the baobab is a sacred tree, a symbol of strength and longevity. Its fruits and leaves are used for food and medicine, while the trunk can serve as a home or a water reservoir. The baobab stands as a guardian of the island, capable of finding a way even where hope seems lost. In the 19th century, watermelon became not only a delicacy, but also a secret ingredient for juices. Watermelons were used not just as a standalone fruit, but also as a base for vitamin blends. They were added to juices to balance the flavor. Watermelon made the drink smoother and more pleasant, reducing the excess acidity and bitterness of other fruits. Imagine a glass of orange juice that's too sour to drink without grimacing. Add a bit of watermelon, and the taste becomes refreshing and harmonious. This technique is still used in cooking today, and it was once a true discovery. Galapagos marine iguanas can hold their breath for up to an hour. These unusual lizards live on the Galapagos Islands and feed on seaweed. To find food, they dive into the ocean and can stay underwater for up to 60 minutes. Their bodies are adapted so that blood is directed only to vital organs during this time, conserving oxygen. They expel excess salt through special glands in their noses, sneezing out salty droplets. On land, they bask in the sun, while in the sea, they become true underwater divers. This is a unique example of reptiles adapting to oceanic life. High humidity can make heat almost unbearable for a person. When it's hot and humid outside, the body literally loses its ability to cool down. The thing is, sweat stops evaporating from the skin, meaning the body can't shed excess heat. As a result, we feel weakness, fatigue, and even stress. It's like trying to dry laundry on a foggy day. It stays wet no matter how much time passes. That's why high humidity feels more oppressive than dry heat. The body simply can't cope with natural cooling. The most numerous bird in the world is neither the sparrow nor the pigeon, but the tiny red-billed qualia. This small bird, found in Africa south of the Sahara, gathers in massive flocks and literally devastates grain fields. For farmers, they are a true plague. Thousands of these birds can strip a harvest in just a few hours. The flocks of quailias are so enormous that they appear like a moving cloud. Scientists consider them the most abundant bird species on Earth. Ironically, in cities we tend to view pigeons as symbols of mass presence, but the record actually belongs to these small African weavers. About 10% of people on the planet are left-handed. The world is primarily designed for right-handed individuals, from scissors and door handles to school desks. However, left-handed people often stand out with a unique style of thinking. There's a theory that their brain hemispheres function differently, which may explain the prevalence of creative and unconventional personalities among them. Imagine living in a world where everything is slightly inconvenient, yet this inconvenience can sometimes spark ingenuity. Left-handed individuals seem to see the world from a different perspective. Many people believe that lightning never strikes the same place twice, but that's a myth. In reality, for example, the Empire State Building in New York gets hit by lightning about 100 times a year. Tall buildings and structures seem to attract electricity, and their tops are specially equipped with lightning rods to prevent damage from strikes. So, lightning doesn't avoid old spots. In fact, it loves to return to them again and again. So if you find yourself near a skyscraper during a storm, know that it's one of the most common places for lightning to meet the ground. Nature once again proves that it doesn't adhere to pretty sayings. Chicago is known as the Windy City, and many believe it's all about the weather. In reality, the nickname originated in the 19th century and referred to the city's politicians, who were famous for their long and pompous speeches. Journalists sarcastically remarked that Chicago was blown by the wind, not due to the climate, but because of empty words. Of course, the city does experience winds from Lake Michigan, but historically, it's more of a jab at talkative politicians than a meteorological fact. Interestingly, over time, the original meaning was forgotten, and the nickname remained, becoming the city's official calling card. Flamingos can stand on one leg for hours. For us, it's a feat of balance, but for them, it's complete relaxation. Their joints are structured in a way that makes holding the pose easy and almost effortless. Think of it as having a built-in freeze frame mode. Scientists don't fully understand how this works. It's as if their muscles lock in place, allowing the bird to even fall asleep without losing balance. Imagine a yogi meditating in a complex pose for hours, but without the slightest tension. For flamingos, it's as natural as sitting in a chair is for us. Ocean giants, sperm whales, are capable of communicating over thousands of kilometers. These ocean behemoths use powerful vibrations for communication that travel through water over vast distances. Scientists suggest that one sperm whale can call another located on the other side of the ocean. However, these same vibrations can be dangerous for humans. Getting too close can lead to paralysis or even death. Thus, sperm whales have their own underwater telephone network that operates far more efficiently than many of our technologies. Their language has not yet been fully deciphered, but it is already clear that it is one of the most complex systems in the animal kingdom. Sometimes large numbers seem empty and abstract, but here's an interesting example. 1 billion seconds is about 32 years. That's a span of time comparable to a whole human life, from birth to maturity. Imagine a baby being born, taking its first steps, going to school, graduating from university, and all of this fits into 1 billion seconds. The word billion sounds like an unimaginably large amount, but in reality, it's just one segment of a human biography. This simple calculation helps us understand how valuable each day is. After all, time doesn't flow in billions, but in small pieces, and it all depends on how we choose to live them. Sometimes pirates went to sea not for gold, but for hats. In the 17th century, English pirate Benjamin Hornigold once stopped a merchant ship, but he wasn't interested in gold or spices. He and his crew had overindulged the night before and thrown their hats overboard. So Hornigold demanded only new headgear from the crew. It's a funny situation. Imagine how terrified the merchants were, expecting a raid only to be told, "We just need hats." Even fearsome pirates found themselves in silly everyday stories. An ant is like a small truck with a two-chamber system. One stomach is for itself, to digest food and gain energy, while the other is for the colony. It stores food there to share with other ants through a special process called trophallaxis. This means ants literally feed each other mouth to mouth, functioning together as a single organism. If one finds a sweet treat, it not only carries it home, but also shares it so others know the way to the treasure. It's like if we could eat a pastry and immediately pass a piece to a friend straight from our stomach, along with the address of the nearest bakery. Scientists have noticed an intriguing habit. When leaving a cave, bats almost always turn left. Why? One theory suggests that this helps them avoid collisions in their large colony. Imagine an intersection without traffic lights, where thousands of cars decide to go only in one direction. It's the same for bats. This common rule of movement makes flying safer. What seems trivial to us is a matter of survival for them. In the dark, order is especially important, and nature has elegantly solved this issue. Left it is. Even great doctors can find themselves at the center of family accusations and scandals. Henry Heimlich became famous as the physician who invented the life-saving maneuver for choking, known as the Heimlich maneuver. However, his son Peter claimed that his father merely appropriated others' ideas and that the Red Cross helped promote the method. Moreover, Peter called him a fraud and a vain man craving fame. The family conflict turned into a public scandal, and the image of the heroic doctor became less clear-cut. This story serves as a reminder that even the most noble discoveries can be surrounded by controversy, and behind a prominent name can sometimes lie a complicated individual. The story of Charles Goodyear proves that even the greatest discovery does not guarantee happiness and wealth. Charles Goodyear, the man who discovered the process of vulcanizing rubber, lived a life filled with debt and legal troubles. He accidentally found a way to make rubber durable and resistant to heat and cold, but instead of riches, he faced endless problems. Goodyear died a poor man, never seeing the recognition he deserved. 40 years after his death, the Goodyear Company emerged, simply adopting his name as a mark of respect. Today, millions of cars run on tires bearing his name, but the inventor received not a penny from it. The story serves as a reminder that talent does not always go hand in hand with luck. At first glance, it's just a beautiful stone, but in reality, it's a true magician. Alexandrite, a mineral from the Ural Mountains, changes color depending on the lighting. In daylight, it appears green or bluish-green, while under artificial light, it transforms into pinkish red or purple. No wonder it's called the chameleon stone. This effect once seemed like magic, and such stones were valued more than gold. Alexandrite is still considered a symbol of change and duality. The same stone shows different faces. It serves as a reminder that life often shifts its colors depending on the light in which we view it. In India, a farmer spent 19 years trying to prove that he was a living person and not a dead man on paper. Indian farmer Lal Bihari was declared dead in 1975, according to official documents. Fraudsters had registered him in the death registry to seize his land. Since then, Lal Bihari fought against bureaucracy for nearly 2 decades to prove he was alive. During this time, he even founded the Association of Dead People to help other victims of similar schemes. It took him 19 years to restore his rights. This story sounds like a dark comedy, but it highlights the absurdity of the bureaucratic system. Strangely enough, the word robot was not coined by a scientist, but by a writer. Czech playwright Karel Čapek introduced the term in his play, You Are. Initially, he wanted to call artificial beings laboras, derived from the Latin word for work, but his artist brother suggested the shorter and catchier robot, from the Czech word for work. Thus, literature gifted science a term that has now become part of everyday life. It's amusing that the technology changing the world began with a fantastical play and a chance word choice in a conversation between 2 brothers. In psychology, there is an intriguing phenomenon known as the wonderful women effect. Research has shown that both men and women tend to attribute more positive qualities to women. The term wonderful women effect emerged in the 1990s when sociologists noticed that women received more flattering ratings in surveys than men. Interestingly, women themselves exhibited even greater bias than men. This doesn't mean that women are always better. Rather, society subconsciously idealizes them. Such an effect can even influence politics, careers, or court decisions, as perception often outweighs facts. In Kenya, there is a remarkable phenomenon known as moving lakes. These saline bodies of water can disappear for months and then reappear elsewhere when the rains come. It seems as if the earth itself is shifting them on the map. In reality, this is linked to underground rivers and tectonic processes that direct the water to areas with voids. For the local people and animals, it poses a real challenge. Birds and herds are forced to follow the water as if it were a living entity. Imagine, a familiar lake has vanished, and you search for it in a new location, as if trying to catch up with an old friend. These wandering lakes demonstrate that nature operates by its own rules, and sometimes even the most familiar things like water can be unpredictable. It sounds incredible, but there was a cartel that limited the lifespan of light bulbs. In the 1920s, the largest light manufacturers formed the Phoebus cartel. They agreed that bulbs should not last longer than 1,000 hours. If a company produced a more durable product, it was fined. This artificially maintained demand. People kept buying new bulbs over and over again. Meanwhile, it's known that bulbs can last for decades. A lamp in a California fire station has been shining for over 100 years. This example became a symbol of planned obsolescence and showed that businesses can even control the light in our homes. The snail may seem slow and harmless, but it has a whole arsenal in its mouth. Thousands of tiny teeth located on a special organ called the radula. With this rasp-like ribbon, the snail scrapes its food, leaves, bark, even stones covered in algae. The teeth are so small that they can only be seen under a microscope, but they make the snail a true connoisseur of nature. Imagine having a mini saw in your mouth that works non-stop. It sounds funny, but this is what helps it survive in various conditions. On the island of St. Helena lives a tortoise named Jonathan, who is around 190 years old. He was born in the 19th century and has witnessed changes in eras, wars, and technologies. Imagine, when Jonathan was young, there was no electricity in every home, and now people are launching satellites into space. Yet the tortoise continues to peacefully graze on grass and bask in the sun. His life is like a living chronicle of history. People come from all over the world just to catch a glimpse of this time machine with a shell. Who would have thought that the hockey mask was invented by a Japanese man? In 1936, goalie Teiji Honma took to the ice in an unusual piece of equipment, a face mask resembling a samurai helmet. At the time, his idea seemed strange, but it later became the foundation for modern protective gear in hockey. Today, it's hard to imagine a goalie without a mask, but it was once considered unnecessary. Honma was a pioneer who blended the traditions of his culture with the sport. Thanks to him, hockey gained an item that has saved the health of thousands of players around the world. The blue whale is not only the largest, but also the loudest inhabitant of the Earth. Its call reaches up to 188 decibels, louder than a departing airplane. These sounds can be heard up to 800 kilometers away underwater. The whale acts like a marine radio transmitter, communicating with other giants over vast distances. For us, it would be a deafening roar, but for them, it's a gentle song. Imagine, deep in the ocean, where it's dark and empty, a powerful bass suddenly resonates, heard by whales scattered across the sea. It's a true symphony of nature. In the United States, sheriffs are not appointed officials, but elected positions. Unlike many countries where police chiefs are appointed by the state, in America, residents of the county elect their sheriff. The term can range from 2 to 6 years, and it is the people who decide whom to trust with maintaining order. The sheriff leads their department, hires deputies, and operates independently from the FBI or police. Today, there are about 3,500 sheriff's offices in the U.S., ranging from small ones with 2 people to large ones with thousands of employees. Thus, a sheriff is both a law enforcement officer and a politician who must earn the trust of their community. Robert Howard, the author of Conan the Barbarian, was a friend and ally of H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft, the creator of the Cthulhu mythos, was a close friend of Robert Howard, the legendary creator of Conan. They corresponded, discussed their works, and inspired each other. When Howard took his own life at the age of 30, Lovecraft was deeply shaken and soon succumbed to illness and depression. Their friendship became a link between Lovecraft's dark cosmic horror and Howard's heroic fantasy. Thus, 2 completely different genres, horror and epic adventure, somehow emerged from a single creative friendship. Interestingly, would you guess that there are people who find pleasure simply in the process? These individuals are called autotelics. They don't need money, praise, or fame to engage in what they love. Their motivation comes from within. They can passionately draw, program, play an instrument, or write books, losing track of time. In psychology, autotelics are considered more resilient to stress and often experience a state of flow, where a person is completely absorbed in a task. For them, the outcome is not as important as the journey itself. It's like finding joy not only in the travel, but also in the very act of moving forward. In Australia, there is Lake Hillier, which changes color from soft pink to deep purple. This effect is created by special algae and minerals. Imagine flying in a plane and seeing a bright pink spot among the greenery of the island, as if a giant spilled strawberry yogurt. Scientists are still debating why the shade is so stable, as even in a bottle, the water from the lake retains its color. For tourists, it is one of the most unusual sights, a natural palette that looks like a scene from a sci-fi movie. In the Middle Ages, there was an unusual unit of volume, the ton, but it wasn't the familiar weight measurement. It referred to the amount of wine that could fit in a huge barrel. Merchants and winemakers used this method of measurement for trade. Imagine, at a fair, deals were made not in liters or even barrels, but in whole tons of wine. Today, this word is associated with heaviness and mass, but once it was linked to joy and feasting. This detail of history serves as a reminder that many modern terms originated from very practical needs of the past, when wine was almost a currency. The Amazon is a river so powerful that its fresh water flows into the Atlantic for hundreds of kilometers. Imagine sailing on a ship in the open ocean, and the water around you is still not salty. Scientists call this phenomenon one of the greatest wonders of hydrology. The Amazon acts like a giant faucet, diluting the ocean's salinity so abundantly that fish and plants feel its effects far beyond the mouth of the river. No other river in the world can transform the sea in such a way. The Amazon is not just a river, it is a living artery of the planet, demonstrating how water can be stronger than even the greatest ocean. A story that challenges conventional understanding. Lomonosov discovered the atmosphere of Venus. In the 18th century, while observing Venus transit across the sun's disk, Mikhail Lomonosov noticed a glowing halo around the planet. He deduced that this was not an optical illusion, but evidence of an atmosphere. This discovery made him the first person to prove that another planet has its own envelope. For modern astronomers, this seems obvious, but at the time, it was revolutionary. Lomonosov demonstrated that scientific intuition and careful observation can reveal what is invisible to others. The computer keyboard is something we touch every day, but we rarely think about how many germs are on it. Studies show that there are often more bacteria on the keys than on a toilet seat. Crumbs, dust, and grease from our hands create the perfect environment for microbial life. Therefore, regular cleaning is not just a whim, but a matter of health. Sometimes, simply wiping the keyboard with disinfecting wipes or using a special vacuum for electronics is enough. So as you type a message or play a game, remember, beneath your fingers lies an entire zoo, and perhaps computer hygiene is more important than we tend to think. For a long time, scientists were unaware that the strange transparent larva was a future eel. They believed for a long time that the leptocephalus was a separate species of fish. Its transparent, almost glass-like body with a long shape does not resemble any adult ocean dweller. But then it turned out that this is just a stage in the development of the eel. Such an unexpected masquerade of nature. The tiny larva lives its own life and then gradually transforms into the eel we know. Discoveries like this always surprise in science. It turns out that some of the new species are merely disguised teenagers of old acquaintances. Imagine this. What we call a banana tree is actually not a tree at all. It doesn't have a real wooden trunk, it's just tightly rolled leaves. Essentially, the banana is the tallest grass on the planet. So you walk through a garden, see this massive plant, and think, definitely a tree, while botanists smile slyly. It's amusing that the fruits we eat in the morning actually grow on a giant blade of grass. Picture a lawn in front of your house, but the size of a 3-story building. That's the green paradox of nature. Egypt can confidently be called the oldest state in the world. Its history spans over 5,000 years, beginning with the unification of Upper and Lower Kingdoms. The pyramids, temples, and the mysterious Nile are not just beautiful images, but symbols of a civilization that laid the foundation for many cultures. Imagine, while Europe was still unaware of writing, the Egyptians were already constructing majestic tombs and writing in hieroglyphs. And even though thousands of years have passed, Egypt still holds secrets that scholars are unraveling, like the pages of the oldest book in the world. Dubai loves to impress with architectural wonders, and one of the ideas is skyscrapers that rotate around their axis. Imagine a building where each floor can slowly turn, offering residents a new view. The sea in the morning, the desert in the evening, and the city lights at night. This technology requires complex solutions, but it transforms the building into a living mechanism. Additionally, the rotation helps evenly distribute sunlight throughout the building and saves energy. This is not just a striking concept, but a step towards smart architecture, where comfort and beauty go hand in hand. Dubai once again proves that the future is already here. We tend to think of the world as having 3 kingdoms: animals, plants, and fungi. Most often, we classify fungi as plants, but the truth is they are much closer to animals. They share a common ancestor with us that dates back over 1 billion years. Unlike plants, fungi cannot photosynthesize. They obtain nutrients by decomposing organic matter. Essentially, they eat like animals. So a champignon or a honey mushroom is not just a little plant with a cap, but a distant relative of ours. Fungi are true recyclers of nature. They return nutrients to the soil, give life to new plants, and without them, ecosystems would simply collapse. Have you ever wondered why a person can't walk straight with their eyes closed? Scientists have conducted experiments where people were asked to walk in a straight line without visual cues. Almost everyone ended up moving in a curved trajectory, often in a spiral. The reason lies in our proprioception, which is the sense of our body's position in space. Without visual guidance, the brain gradually loses its way. Interestingly, a person can navigate by stars or even by smell. But as soon as we take away the familiar visual control, we turn into drunken sailors, unable to walk straight even for 100 meters. In Venice, there is an unusual museum that showcases items recovered from the bottom of the canals. You can see coins, ancient tools, jewelry, and even musical instruments that have been submerged for centuries. Each exhibit is a piece of history, accidentally lost and later found. Imagine walking through the city, and somewhere beneath your feet in the mud lies a lost ring or a merchant's wallet, only to be unearthed by archaeologists centuries later. This museum brings the past to life, revealing not the grand Venice, but its everyday life. It serves as a reminder that every forgotten object could one day become part of a larger story. You won't believe it, but a parrot swore at the funeral of a U.S. president. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of America, had a favorite parrot. His owner often cursed, and the bird quickly picked up the habit. When Jackson died, the parrot was brought to the funeral, but instead of a solemn silence, the guests heard a stream of profanity. The priest had to ask for it to be removed to avoid embarrassing the attendees. It created a strange scene. A president, known for his strong character, and his feathered friend, who seemed to continue his speech even after death. The story shows that even parrots can leave a vivid legacy. Sharks are eternal swimmers. They lack a swim bladder, which keeps most fish at the right depth. To avoid sinking and suffocating, they must keep moving all the time. Water flows through their gills, and that's the only way they get oxygen. Imagine having to walk your entire life with no right to sit down or lie down to sleep. For a shark, this is normal. Even in sleep, it continues to swim, moving slowly and calmly. So the ocean is for it both a bed and a road. A home all at once. A true marathon that lasts a lifetime. Vladimir Lenin was not only a revolutionary but also an avid chess player. During his exile in Siberia, he played correspondence games, solved chess problems in studies, and later often used chess metaphors in his writings. For him, chess was not just a game, but a training ground for strategic thinking. Imagine, he could manage several games at once while in exile and simultaneously work on political texts. Chess helped him hone his patience and ability to calculate moves. Thus, the revolutionary known for decisive actions was a cool-headed strategist on the board, capable of waiting for the right moment to make a winning move. In the tropical forests of Papua New Guinea lives a creature that is easily overlooked, the smallest frog in the world. It measures just 7.7 millimeters, less than a centimeter. Weighing about 1/100th of a gram, it hides among the leaves, appearing as a tiny dot. But don't be fooled into thinking it's quiet. Its voice resembles the buzz of an insect and can be heard from a considerable distance. This little one demonstrates that nature can create not only giants like whales and elephants, but also incredible miniature champions. It's astonishing how life and energy can fit into such a microscopic body. It may seem like ordinary things, but if you take a closer look, they hold the most unexpected stories. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of curiosities, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's even more to come that textbooks have kept silent about.